Tsubaki and Okamata are waiting for Yamada to finish his tutoring session, and they don't hear from him. Okamata wonders if he is hanging out with a girl, and he teases Tsubaki that she needs to confess her feelings towards Yamada or he will find someone else. He stops joking when she starts to cry, and he apologizes to her. Tsubaki first met Yamada after he beat her in an FPS game. She confronted him at school and asked him to teach how to get better at gaming. Yamada agreed, and for several hours he taught her more about the FPS game. Tsubaki had initially thought Yamada had cheated, but after watching him she confesses that he is actually very skilled. This led her to fall in love with him. But now Tsubaki is worried that Yamada might be falling for someone else. This is especially worrying for Tsubaki because when they were younger, Yamada once shared a story about a classmate who was bullied a lot because she had feelings for him. This eventually led the girl to be depressed over the rumors and she transferred to a different school. As a result, Yamada decided to avoid all romance with girls, and to respect his choice Tsubaki kept her feelings hidden for a long time. But now Tsubaki wonders if she made the right choice, as Yamada's dismissive attitude for romance ended up stunting his social abilities. And she can feel that Yamada has hidden depths to him, and that he might be secretly wishing for an emotional connection. Meanwhile, Yamada takes care of Akane back in her apartment. She is hopelessly sick and unable to take care of herself, and he discovers that she has a terrible fever. Time passes as Akane fades in and out of consciousness, and Yamada searches for her medical information so he can take her to an emergency hospital. Afterwards, Akane wakes up in her apartment feeling better, and discovers Yamada sleeping in her room. A shocked Akane decides to open the window, but this accidentally wakes up Yamada. An awkward Akane thinks that she's still dreaming but ends up coughing a lot since she's still sick. After a slight panic attack, Yamada puts her back in bed and he explains that he found her collapsed near the apartment bikes. Akane realizes that her dream of Yamada carrying her wasn't a dream at all, and she becomes extremely self-conscious. After he tells her about taking her to a hospital, she cries out of gratitude and tries to hug him, but he avoids her since she's still sick. They end up talking about a book about breakups that Akane has been reading, and an emotional Akane thanks Yamada again. But thinking about the girl who transferred away from his school, Yamada tells her that he isn't the person she thinks he is. Akane talks about her past relationship, and that she appreciated Takuma had broken up with her instead of lying about his feelings. She tells him that over time she has started to feel appreciation for their time together, and she wishes the best for Takuma. Yamada thinks back to the girl in his past, and he wonders if someday he will move on as well. Later, Yamada gives Akane some yogurt to eat, and Akane starts to feel self-conscious again having Yamada in her apartment. She starts to feel a cramp on her leg, and Yamada suddenly helps to give her a massage to recover. Although she has a violent reaction, Akane starts to feel a lot better from the massage. Akane becomes shocked when a relaxed Yamada suddenly starts to laugh, demonstrating he feels comfortable around her. The next morning, Yamada goes to leave after spending the night at the apartment. Akane suddenly feels the urge to touch him to thank him, but when he moves suddenly she panics and stops. Just before he is about to leave though, Akane reaches out again, but when Yamada wonders what's happening, she gives panicked excuses. Later, Momoko arrives with food for Akane since she is recovering in her apartment. As Momoko restocks her kitchen, Akane explains that Yamada took care of her while she was sick, which shocks Momoko, who asks if they have suddenly started dating. Akane explains that he was just helping her, and Momoko is taken aback by Akane's obliviousness. But Akane does wonder what this means between her and Yamada, since he went far beyond what a friend would normally do. Before Momoko leaves, she advises Akane that timing is everything when it comes to love. Later, Akane makes food for herself and she thanks Yamada via text. She also gets a text from Runa who is hoping that she feels better soon. Akane then logs into FOS since she is still recovering, and when she logs in she sees Ada with Tsubaki, who is her new guild member. Akane happily starts to explain the paladin class since Tsubaki is a paladin as well. But Tsubaki reveals that she had actually already done a lot of research on the paladin class. Akane hopes to make a good impression on Tsubaki, though when the three of them go hunting, Akane and Tsubaki are overwhelmed. Akane asks Ada to help them, but Ada is too high level, so if he helps he will easily defeat the monster. Ada decides to give them some support from the sidelines, and Akane plans a strategy with Tsubaki where they spam their abilities until the boss dies. The strategy doesn't work, and Ada watches as they fail against the boss's mechanics. Afterwards, Tsubaki and Akane discuss their next strategy against the boss, and Ada is happy that they seem to be bonding. Though when Akane sends Tsubaki a friend request, Tsubaki has conflicting feelings. Akane decides to call Yamada for advice against the boss, but he tells her that he doesn't have much experience with bosses in that tier. He points out that the boss probably has a random gimmick that they need to discover, and Akane thinks about their next strategy. Meanwhile, Ada and Tsubaki chat together and Tsubaki reveals that she doesn't have much interest in FOS, and she joined for more selfish reasons, but she doesn't reveal her crush on Yamada to Ada. Meanwhile, Akane and Yamada finish chatting about the boss, and Akane feels sad when they eventually stop talking. She calls Momoko and asks if they can meet for an important discussion. At a nearby cafe, Akane directly asks Momoko why she was dumped by Takuma. But Momoko reveals she is extremely disappointed with Akane because she thought that Akane had exciting news to share. A self-conscious Akane wonders if she was dumped because she had a fatal flaw or a bad habit which would make her undesirable. But before Momoko can give her advice, a group of boys recognize Momoko, and they forcibly join the table. Akane is unimpressed with the boys, who the girls find insensitive and annoying. Ada arrives, as he actually works as a waiter at the cafe. He senses that the girls are uncomfortable, so he ends up rescuing them by directing the two girls to another table. After Akane explains to Momoko how she knows Ada, who is her guildmaster, Momoko starts to become jealous because Akane somehow meets a lot of attractive guys online. Later, Ada finishes his shift and he is met outside by Akane and Momoko, but Akane reveals she has an important question for him. Akane had first met Ada as Worihime when she was just a beginner, and he helped fix her armor, so Akane feels brave enough to ask Ada about her past relationship. But at the last second she feels too embarrassed, so Momoko has to explain what Akane is trying to ask, that Akane is worried that she was dumped in her previous relationship because something was wrong with her. Ada assures Akane that she is much kinder than Takuma and that there is nothing wrong with Akane. He correctly guesses that she has feelings for Yamada, and tells her that he has known Yamada for many years, and that a direct approach would be best for him. Ada encourages Akane to be straightforward with her feelings for Yamada, and if she faces trouble he and Momoko will be there to support her. Feeling encouraged, Akane leaves, deciding to confess her feelings to Yamada. As soon as she leaves, Momoko seizes the opportunity to talk to Ada and tells him that she is looking for a boyfriend. Akane heads to the station, and as she travels to Yamada's place she thinks about all the times that he helped her. When she gets there, Akane hesitates after awkwardly saying hi to him. She tries to confess but they get interrupted by his loud neighbors, and Yamada reveals he needs to leave for cram school soon. Akane decides to follow him to cram school, but she feels uncomfortable confessing in a public place. She wonders if she should confess at all, as she feels comfortable with the friendship that they have. At the cram school, Yamada promises to call her after his class, since she seems to have something important to tell him. But after cram school, it starts to rain. Since only Yamada has an umbrella, Okamata decides to create an opportunity for Yamada and Tsubaki to share an umbrella together. Meanwhile, Yamada wants to get home quickly so he can call Akane. Thanks to Okamata, Yamada and Tsubaki end up sharing an umbrella together, and while walking Tsubaki asks about Akane. Yamada decides to leave Tsubaki the umbrella so he can head home himself, but before he leaves Tsubaki runs after him. She slips and breaks her glasses by accident, and when he helps her Tsubaki suddenly confesses to him. Tsubaki starts to cry and asks him to think about her feelings. Later, Akane gets a text from Yamada that they will have to call another day, which saddens her. The next day while Yamada is tutoring Runa, Ada arrives and asks for the confession the day before. Yamada misunderstands him, assuming that Ada is referring to Tsubaki's confession, and he shocks Ada by admitting he is uncertain about his response. Ada is saddened by this, and advises him to quickly give an answer. Yamada heads to the nearby convenience store where he meets Akane. He reveals he has been trying to reach her, and Akane can tell that something is troubling him, so she decides to postpone her confession to him. She tries to cheer him up by talking about her new gear in FOS, and she decides to draw a sketch of her character on his hand. Feeling encouraged, Yamada admits that he doesn't often understand the feelings of others, and he is so quiet because he is worried that he will say the wrong thing when talking to others. Akane comforts him and assures him that he has a kind and generous spirit. And that night, Yamada goes to meet Tsubaki. At first the two of them are awkward with each other, and Tsubaki is certain she will be rejected. She tells him that she had a crush on him since they were first years, and that she has been holding in her feelings for him for a long time. But now, she feels she cannot stop herself anymore. Tsubaki launches into a rambling speech expressing the things he admired about him, which include his gaming skills, his good looks, and his quiet demeanor. But the speech starts to make Yamada feel uncomfortable. Tsubaki starts crying because she feels an immense relief from finally admitting her feelings, and Tsubaki is not surprised when Yamada kindly rejects her. Yamada tells her that he has feelings for someone else, and Tsubaki recognizes Akane's FOS character sketched onto his hands. She asks him directly if he has feelings for Akane, and for the first time he admits his feelings. Tsubaki thanks Yamada for hearing her out, and she heads home thinking about the times they had together, starting to cry after she leaves his sight. Meanwhile, Akane goes out for dinner with Ada, Runa, and Takezo to try out a new fancy restaurant. Akane wonders if Yamada could join them, and she feels disappointed she hasn't confessed yet. Ada tells her to not worry too much about him, and that he will be arriving later. Meanwhile, Takezo is recognized by many patrons at the restaurant, and he is actually a powerful company president in real life. The four of them have dinner together, and several expensive gifts are sent to them from other restaurant patrons due to Takezo's influence. Ada hopes to be as influential as Takezo one day, but Takezo feels indebted to Ada, and the guild because thanks to them he can let his guard down and just play video games. Eventually Yamada arrives at the restaurant, but finds Akane very drunk. The rest of the guild reveals that Akane drank a lot of special sake and has become very clingy. They tell him if Akane becomes too annoying to leave her outside the restaurant. Yamada decides to take Akane outside to get her some fresh air, and he gets her some water. Akane starts to sober up and apologizes for her behavior, which included her singing songs very badly. She tells him that she'll head home and he can go back to the restaurant. The Yamada is reluctant to leave a drunk Akane in this part of town, so he decides to walk her home. They have a moment together when Yamada helps Akane when her shoe gets stuck, leading them to holding hands together. At her apartment, Yamada starts to leave when Akane suddenly asks if he has feelings for her. Yamada smiles and admits that he likes her, but that they should talk the next day so that she can better remember his confession after she recovers from drinking. The shocked Akane tells him she will call him in the morning, and they say goodbye with a hug. The next morning, Akane and Yamada call each other and confirm their feelings for each other, formally entering into a relationship. That although at university Momoko is happy for her, she becomes shocked by their friends teasing that she suddenly has a younger boyfriend. Akane also worries that she might be a distraction or burden to Yamada since he will be studying for university entrance exams soon. But Yamada tells her not to worry, revealing he was enjoying watching her talk. They hold hands and walk home together, and Yamada thinks about the first time he met Akane, and how a lost shoe somehow led them together. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.